patriarchal society, his father has passed away. Within a couple of years, his mother passes away. Within a couple of years, his grandfather, who was the one taking care of him, passes away. And his uncle starts taking care of him. So think about what I'm saying here. He's in the middle of a land that has no vegetation. I'd call it a desert, but it's not quite a desert because it's a bunch of hills of granite, no vegetation. Very tough environment. His primary caretakers, one by one, they all pass away. He does not know how to read or write. Illiterate, right? Out of respect, rather than say illiterate, often Muslims will say unlettered. When his uncle starts taking care of him, he does not want to impose upon his uncle, so he gets a job as a shepherd, which seems to be the case of so many religious leaders, especially in biblical tradition. And you and I know, what does a shepherd do? When you have sheep, sheep will go in whatever direction, so you have to gently guide them. So it's as though he's getting trained to become the person that he is supposed to become. But his uncle does not impose upon him, but his uncle and the rest of the people in his town that he's being raised in Mecca, are also noticing that he is special, right? Because these religious figures always have to be special. Right? And what is special about him? His rock-solid character. He's called as-Siddiq al-Amin. He is the walking truth. And what does this mean? It means that he is so truthful that it is not even possible to believe that he would tell a lie. It is not even possible to believe that he would massage the truth. And so this is also the reputation that he's getting. This is his innate good character. He gets older. He goes into business. These are merchants at the time. Fiercely patriarchal society. His boss is a woman. His boss is a woman who is older than him. Khadija, every Muslim in this room knows her. Knows her very well through these biographies. And she notices that he is far and away her most successful businessman. Okay. Partly because he is so honest. That's what you need in business, that's what you need in every field, right? Also because of his charisma. Okay. Any Muslim will tell you, I can even ask them right now, okay, if I ask you to picture the Prophet, peace be upon him, what expression does he have? Smile. Everyone says that, right? He's smiling. And so it is his warm charisma that invites people. That also contributes to his success. Not being able to read or write. Imagine being in business not being able to read or write, which means another sign of his brilliant intellect. She proposes marriage to him. He agrees. They get married. Now, according to some narrations, she's as old as 40 years old. According to other narrations, she's as young as 29, but she's definitely older than him. And they have as many as 6 kids together. When he's young, father dies, mother dies, grandfather dies. Their children, all of their children, one by one, pass away. All of their children pass away, except for one. So now imagine that. As a child, he's losing everyone. As an adult, over the course of the next few years, he is also losing all of his children. Okay. So think about the character that is also developing in him. You would call that backbone, right? Perseverance. And the Quraysh, they were the dominant tribe. He was a member of this tribe. They were called the Quraysh. They were merchants, but they, as Arabs are, including many of the Arabs in this room, very focused on hospitality. Okay? Some of these Arabs are getting very happy now. Okay? Focused very much on their hospitality. And they decided that it is not in our nature as the leaders of the Arabian Peninsula to allow people to be weak, to allow people to suffer. So they conducted a treaty within the different families of this tribe, which in English we call this the Pact of Chivalry. Okay. Muhammad himself joins this pact. And what is this pact? Hilf al-Fudul. What is this pact? That if you find anybody who is weak, anybody who is suffering, you are obliged to take care of them. Okay. Which he did. But what he would notice in the process is that every time he would try to take care of someone, he'd find 9 more people who are suffering. And as he would try to take care of them, he'd find countless more people who are suffering. The need was endless. But he persevered. Part of his day, he was in business. Part of his day, he's with his wife, he's with his family. Part of his day, he's dedicated to everyone else. And so this then leads to personal reflection. What are the answers to these problems of life? What are the answers to these struggles in life? And this leads him to go to one of the caves on the outskirts of his town of Mecca to reflect. And according to these different narrations, he's there for different amounts of time. But he's there one night reflecting all alone in this cave by himself. And then he receives a visit. A light appears in front of him. A man appears from the light, or a voice appears from this light, and this man tells him, read or recite. Muhammad, seeing this light in the middle of the night, says, I am not a reciter, I am not a reader. Essentially, what do you want me to say? Okay. The man tells him again. Muhammad responds the same way. Then this light, this man hugs him really tightly, and then lets go. And then he tells him to read or recite in the name of your Lord who created you. Okay. He created humanity from an embryo, and he taught humanity what it does not know. Okay. This man, this light leaves. Muhammad is now perplexed, if not lost, in terms of what happens, and he races home. And everywhere he is turning, he is seeing this light. He is seeing this man saying to Muhammad, this man is now as large as the horizon. So imagine if the sun is right in front of the earth. And this man is telling Muhammad, I am Gabriel, an angel of God. And you, Muhammad, are the messenger of God. And so what does Muhammad do? As he's seeing this, he runs home, he runs back to his wife. He is going into shock because of this experience. His wife comforts him, she wraps him in a blanket, and she also says to him, look. Okay. Muhammad, according to some narrations, thinks he's lost it. But she says to him, look, you are good to every person you've met. Okay. You take care of everyone. You speak with kindness to everyone. You think something horrible is happening to you. It is not possible that God would let you be humiliated. What are we saying here? That she knows him, she has complete belief in him. And she says, I have an uncle who is a monk, a Christian monk. Let us go to see what he has to say. So they go to him and they narrate what has happened, and the monk, the uncle, gets very excited, and he says the same thing that has happened to you is what has happened to Moses. God is speaking to you. And this man is a very old man. Muhammad at this time is 40 years old. And the man says to him, if I was younger, I would stand by you as your society tries to exile you, as your society turns against you. Because those of us who know religion know that what is at the heart of religion? Today when we speak about religion, we only speak about identity. But what is common among Muhammad and all the prophets in Islam? What is common among Jesus in Christianity? What is common among the Buddha in Buddhism? There are people who are speaking the truth, and the result is that it's causing waves in society. So for example, in Christianity, is Jesus' message political? No, but it has political consequences. Right? It's the Roman Empire that crucifies him. Simple message of truth, simple message of service, but causing such waves that it affects power. So this is exactly what happens to Muhammad. And he receives further instructions to preach. Gives up his profession, and he is preaching and preaching and preaching and preaching. And who is following him, as is the case with these other figures in history, the least of people in society are the ones who are especially following him. Slaves are following him. Young people are following him. And fiercely patriarchal society, women are following him. Same thing is happening. His message is creating waves, it's creating ripples. And what does this mean to the people who are in power? That their pocketbooks are being threatened because the social order is being threatened. But he continues to preach. They try to bribe him, it doesn't work. They try to bribe him to stop preaching. No chance. They resort to character assassination to get him to stop or to get people to turn away, but this only gets people more interested in him. They decide none of those methods have worked, let us torture his followers. They would torture him, but that poor uncle, who was taking care of Muhammad, announces to the leaders that I am giving him my protection, you cannot touch him. He was not giving protection to everyone else. So all these weak people members of weaker tribes who are following him, are now getting tortured. Okay. Again, this is what happens in the work of religion. If the work of religion, a message for everyone, is not merely your identity. The work of religion is focused on being upright, of calling the truth, of speaking what we call truth to power, okay, and being ready to take what hits you. And so, he is preaching, knowing that if anyone embraces his message, they're going to get tortured. People, knowing if they embrace his message, they're going to get tortured, still continue to follow him. And people are getting killed now. And what is his message? No God but God. It's that simple. And so then he tells his followers that, all right, there is a Christian king across the sea. So picture Arabia, across the sea is Africa, picture Ethiopia, right there at the corner. Go there, there's a Christian king who does not treat anyone unjustly. If you can't withstand this torture, go there and you'll be safe. Okay. And most of his followers go, and he only has less than 100 followers. Many of his followers stay with him, ready to withstand the torture. Why? For the same point that I've been mentioning, because they would rather be with him and get tortured than be away from him. Because he is to them that precious. He's not wanting his followers to get hurt. They are refusing to leave his side. This is what takes place in the first 10 years of Muhammad's preaching. While he continues to preach, while he continues to watch suffering take place, he is now called upon everyone in his town. He goes to the town next door. They reject him completely. How badly did they reject him? He goes to them to preach to them, what? No God but God. How do they respond? They send their kids and their slaves to whip him with stones. How does he respond? He walks back covered in blood. He stops the preaching. And he asks God, am I doing something wrong? Are you upset with me? Because all I'm doing is giving this simple message, and everyone is rejecting it. So if you are not upset with me, if I'm not doing something wrong, then I will continue. And so he heads back, and then he has this experience, which we call the night journey. The night journey. In the span of less than a night, he is elevated. He is taken from Mecca to Jerusalem. I'm leaving out some of the details in terms of how he goes, but okay, we're talking about going 1,000 miles in a split second. And he meets all the prophets who have ever lived. And they have him lead prayer. Why? He's the completion of the message. And once he leads prayer, then he is further elevated in physical form. He visits all the levels of hell, all the levels of heaven. Now, if you're familiar with Dante, Divine Comedy, okay, Inferno, Paradiso, not so much Purgatorio. Dante is around when? About the 1300s. Okay. The general notion is that he's actually plagiarizing. Okay. He's plagiarizing an Islamic scholar from Syria, who was also in Spain at the time, named Ibn Arabi, who writes a poem about the night journey. Okay. And sometimes if you actually compare passages, it gets kind of interesting how close they are to each other. The point I'm making here is that if you can imagine going through all the levels of hell, all the levels of heaven, this is what Muhammad sees. And then he has this special meeting with God directly. Up till this point, communication with God has been through the angel Gabriel. This is different than Moses. God communicates directly with Moses. God is communicating through the angel Gabriel with Muhammad. Now it's a direct meeting in paradise. And they have a conversation which every Muslim repeats in every one of their prayers.